I'll already be in with this thing, because yeah. Yeah. Should we just get going? Yep. These things are live.
Yes.
Ready? All right. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us today. So to start off, my name is Kyle Farnan, and I'm here with Chris Crummy. And today we're going to be walking you through a presentation of a day-in-the-life scenario, but all based on cloud services. So before we get started, there's three things that I want to go over, because I know you're just going to come up, you're going to ask at the end of the session. The first thing is, I am Canadian, and it's going to show in my accent, so you're going to hear it, so you don't have to ask. I definitely am. And to all the Canadians in the stands, yay. Wow, good representation. Second thing, what you're going to see today, everything is out of the box, ready to go. Nothing is stuff that's coming out of the research labs or anything like that right now. There's no futures in here. Everything you see today, you can have available to you. And the third thing is, if you want to provide feedback to the session, please feel free to open up Twitter and use this session as your hash and LS11. All right, so I was sitting in the session yesterday with Sean Pooley and Brendan Crotty as they were going over the Lotus Live session, and Signature Mortgage got up on stage and they said this: Lotus Live allows David to compete with Goliath. And I thought, that's awesome. That's one of the most impressive statements I've heard throughout all of Lotusphere. And there are two reasons why I think that's very important. First of all, it validates or continues to validate IBM's effort to put in a secure, fully collaborative extranet into their cloud offering as a value add into that environment, taking full advantage of what the cloud can provide our customers. And the second reason why I think that's important is that even though Signature Mortgage, their use case is unique in the way that they're using files, activities, and Solanus for contracts, I think that the value that they get from it, from being a fully collaborative environment, is no different from what you guys struggle with your companies today, right? I would imagine that if not everybody within your organization, parts of your organization could really leverage the services that are available to Lotus within Lotus Live and really create a competitive differentiator for you, just like the way it is for Signature Mortgage. All right, so as we said, right, this is going to be in the day-in-the-life scenario. And the whole context is actually me being at Lotusphere, right? How do I use Lotus Live at Lotusphere? And so I'm going to take you through three use cases within, me being here at Lotusphere. So as a presenter, it's very, very common that at the end of the session, people come up to me and they go, hey, can I get a copy of that presentation, right? And it's almost like, you're traveling with your parents somewhere and it's like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? I mean, I get that all the time. And a couple years ago...
Kyle, I'm sorry. Can I have a copy of your presentation? I've been following you for days, everywhere you go, the cafeteria, the Dolphin Bar, especially the Dolphin Bar. If I gave you my business card, can I get a copy of your deck?
That's absolutely no problem. And that's actually what I do. I actually asked for the person's business card, and I'll show you how. I take this and share it with that person, even though I've never met them. I didn't even get that person's name, and I probably don't even want to know that person. So the next use case that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I actually planned a session that I'm actually doing tomorrow morning at 8:30 that I expect every single one of you at, and it's going to be on cloud and why you should choose Lotus Live when you're looking at the competition. But anyways, I'll show you how I work through that session and how we get Lotusphere sessions done at Lotusphere sessions done here. And then lastly, I'm going to walk you through the fact that work doesn't stop while we're here, right? We're all going up to our hotel rooms and getting work done. It doesn't stop just because we're at a conference. Same with me, and I'm going to walk you through how I'm monitoring a pilot, a Lotus Live pilot that's going on with a customer using Lotus Live. So if you extrapolate on those use cases that I just gave you, you'll see that we basically collaborate in different ways at different times, right? There's that situation where there's an immediate need. Somebody needs a presentation yesterday, and I'm going to drop everything. I'm going to send it to them through Lotus Live. I'm going to pop open my same time client, and I'm going to let them know that just to make sure that they have it, right? More traditionally, we work on teams, and within teams, we work on projects. But I don't think any one of us can say we work on one project exclusively at a time. We have multiple projects, and that's no different. I'm working on 3 different Lotusphere sessions, right? So I'll show you how I use Lotus Live for that. And then communities, the last thing I want to say about projects is projects last probably about like 1 week to about 1 month or about 2 months, right? But very different than that immediate need where you got to use high use of synchronous tools. In a team project, when you're on a team, you're using a great combination of heads down, productivity tools, and then you got to pop your heads up to review it, right? And so you're using the synchronous tools to get that done. And then communities, right? Communities, there are communities at IBM that have been around for 50 years, right? These are things that stay, things that grow, things that mature, and the reality is that you need different tools to support these different requirements of your organization. But every organization has each of these requirements. And if you actually try and map it out, because as I was thinking about this presentation, if you actually map it out on a scale of, as you increase time and you increase the people that you're actually working and collaborating with, you can see how the services morph and change, right? And the reality is that you just need different tools based on, how fast you got to get things done and the number of people that you're working with. But more importantly is that there are not silos or bricks walls in between each of these services, right? They're all connected, and so you have to make sure that as you share that file, you can share that file in an activity, or if that makes sense to put that file in a community, it's always a one-click operation. All right, so, as in your business life, you have different roles and different relationships with people, right? You have people who come up to you and give you a business card and say, hey, can I get that presentation? And that's a brand new relationship. And then you have those relationships that are external with business partners and with customers, but that's treated a little differently than when you first establish a relationship. And then you have that relationship with somebody within your organization, right? There's a certain level of trust there right out of the gate. But again, that's a different relationship than with the extranet and then with the new person that you just made contact with. And Lotus Live actually has these roles built into that environment. It supports and makes it easy for you to establish relationships with people, work across the firewall as if you're working with somebody within your organization. But if you are working with somebody within your organization, making it super easy to find content, do the whole kind of social capabilities that you've been hearing about and probably seen through Lotuspheres in the past. So, and that's what we're going to show you here, right? Chris is going to be logged in as 2 different people. He's going to be taking advantage of the guest account. He's going to be, and then we're also going to show you, actually the real Chris and I, working as IBMers together. And I'm just going to be myself. So to lead into the first demo, I got 2 slides here, and I want to talk about the value of sharing, right? So first of all, the first thing about our sharing is that it promotes instant-on spontaneous collaboration, right? So, and what that means is I should be able to collaborate. I should be able to share a file with you, whether you're in Lotus Live or not. It doesn't matter. All I need is your email address. All I need is your business card, right? And then you're off to the races. Next is organic sharing. The ability for somebody who you've shared that file with to share it downstream. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to get your content out without you having full control over it. But really, that's when you want to push information out and let people consume it. And it really allows your power users, you're giving power to your power users. And then the next one is file sharing, or the actual file limits that you have within Lotus Live. You have 5 gigabytes of storage to upload your files. And that is 5 times greater than anything in the competition out there right now. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to completely remove IT from that process of having to actually send a big file. I mean, we don't have to do it every day, but it happens, right? We've all had it happen, and you know, we've had it bounce through firewalls. We've been trying to get into FTP servers. We've all been there. You don't have to do that anymore. And then lastly, elimination of duplication. So the file service has done a really good job of integrating its services into the other services of Lotus Live, right? So whether you're in an activity, whether you're in a community meeting, whatever, wherever you are, you have access to that file, and that's really what this diagram is really meant to show up. So anyway, enough of me talking. Let's actually get into showing the good stuff. So I got this business card here, right? So I'm logged into Lotus Live here, and I'm going to go out and into my file service. And Chris is asking me to share my presentation with him. So on this business card, I just look at Chris's email, and all I got to do here is very simply say share. I'm going to you can see here I have different ways of sharing, but I'm just going to share with Chris. And again, if I want, I can make him a reader or an author. And you can see here, as I type autocomplete fills out. There he is, right there. And then all I got to do is click share, right? And then if I want Chris, because I know Chris is probably, you know, he's one of 10 people from his organization who are going to want to share this presentation, I can just go into the file and go into the sharing section. And you see this option right here, allow others to share. That's the organic sharing built right into Lotus Live. So now that person can go back, log into Lotus Live, and share with other people within his organization. So if I could, let's switch it over to Chris.
All right. So now I'm going to log in as the Chris Crummy at Yahoo ID. And now as a guest, this is this idea of spontaneous collaboration, right? Coming in, I have a limited amount of actions I can do here. I'm going to go to my files, and then I'm going to go to the files that I see here shared with me, and I'm able to come in here, and I can actually share them also, right? But one of the things you'll notice is I can't share them as an author. I can only share it as a reader downstream. So as Kyle talked about this idea of organic sharing, this is a ridiculously powerful concept. And you guys do it all the time on the web when you see things like this. When you come over to, like, let's say CNN News for a second, and you see things like this, and you want to share them, there's a share button. This is an idea of organic sharing that you see all the time. The reason why this is so important is because when you share, you become my salesperson. You just socially validated my content. The second value is that you made it really easy for him or her to do the right thing. I'm Kyle's power sponsor in my corporation. I then can take his content and then share it downstream organically in my company. Still have the original single point of truth, but I give it a social value. I give it a greater value by sharing it than if I do otherwise. This is why Connections is working so well, and this is why the idea of social business is in the cloud also.
Right.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, and the great thing about it is, if you think about how hard it is without a solution like this, or if you're doing it through email, of just having different versions of the same document within your organization, But the power of this is to get it externally, but also when you get externally, there's a bigger chance of that, having old or stale data. As soon as Chris updates that or I update that document once, all the people, not only internally in my organization, but everybody who shared it externally gets automatically notified that there's been an update, and they can go and get the latest version of it. All right, so if we go back to the file servers, a couple other things that I want to point out here. So if you look at this file right here, this insurance use case, I just want to point out the fact that it is a over 600 megabyte file, right? And so that's a significant file. And again, it's not something that you have uploaded every day, but it does happen. This is a movie file of a recorded demo that I want to share externally so my business partners can use it. I mean, I'm not alone here with this need. And we allow it, doesn't matter what the file type is, just makes it super easy, and it doesn't stop collaboration. All right, and then the other thing that I want to point out is the fact that, around a file, you have a lot of options, right? So if I come down here to this partnership contract, oh, wrong one. Sorry, let's go. You'll see here that if you look at all the options that are available to you, you can see here that if I want to, I can do this option of presenting in a meeting. And what that'll do is it'll load it into a web meeting. But what it's preventing me from doing, because it just makes it easier to do it this way, that it's preventing me from downloading it to my desktop and uploading a new version of it. Everything just stays in the cloud, just makes it really, really easy, right? And if I go into that document and I want to share, again, if I actually want to share with a community, say I want to share this with my Tiger team, you can see here that I can automatically share with the community that is our Tiger team that Chris has set up, right? So again, integrated. I'm sharing the file with the community. Once I update this document again, everybody within that community knows about it. So again, just making it very easy to collaborate and share documents and really minimize the duplication. And the same thing would happen with activities. You can, I'll show that in a bit, but you see, you can reference a file right within an activity, not creating a new instance of it. All right, if I could switch back over to my presentation. All right, let's get into project management. Okay, so I'm working on 3 Lotusphere sessions, having a lot of fun doing it. But as you can imagine, just having one Lotusphere session is a lot of work. And I don't think I could manage that alone in my inbox. But the fact is I have 3 going on right now. So there's no way I could even think about using my inbox as a lightweight project management tool. If you would imagine, Chris and I have probably uploaded somewhere about 5 or 6 different versions of our presentation separately. So now we're talking about 12 different copies of that. You don't want that in your inbox. It's impossible to manage, right? But I know when I go to that file in Lotus Live, I'm working off the most recent version. Not only that, when you're working on a Lotusphere session, I'm not just working with Chris, right? There are a whole bunch of other people involved, and I'm going to model it out with 2 other very important people in this process. And that's legal, right? They got to make sure everything's legit within the presentation. And then marketing, right? They want to make sure that the messages are correct, that we're saying the right things and using the right terms. But anyways, those people are involved in this process as well. So I thought what I'd do is I just go into my if I could switch back over to the demo machine, I just thought I'd show you how I actually used activities. Now, if you think about it, everybody who goes through an activity has to go through the same process, right? We get an email with instructions in it, and we all have to go through the same process of starting with the same template, building out the presentation, submitting it to legal, legal approves it, then it goes into marketing, right? So what that really maps out to is, if you really think about that process, that is a template that everybody has to go through. How they accomplish it is a little different for everybody, but everybody's got to go through those same steps. And so what we've done here is we've actually created a template that gets created for every session at Lotusphere that has all of that knowledge of the steps that you have to do in there. So for example, here's a template. The first item in the template is instructions on what you have to do and how to follow this. And then there's a guided tour of to-dos, the steps that you have to follow around each of the items. So for example, start with one of these templates. You've seen presentations in black, you've seen presentations in white. It was up to the individual presenter this year, but that's where these templates came from, right? If you want everybody on the same template, put it in one place and make it available to everybody. And And then, so then you go off and you do your presentation. One of the other things I want to point out here is that you do have to submit to legal, right? So you have to submit to legal. Now, I don't know our legal department. I very rarely work with our legal department. I'm not sure who to actually talk to over there. But you can actually contain that knowledge in this template as well. And so you can see here, the person who's actually going to be doing the legal approval of this presentation is Brian Pearson. So I have that information embedded in that. So this is my starting point, right? So when you create an activity, you can start from an activity template. So when I go into my session for tomorrow, you can see here that the template's been blown out, or the activity itself has been blown out. But all of the to-dos and all the rest of that are the same from the template, because that's what I started from. I didn't start from scratch. You can see here that as Chuck, who I'm doing the presentation with tomorrow, and I decided that, for the agenda for tomorrow, not to give too much away because I know you're going to be there. You're going to see here that the agenda is, the solution, talking about TCO, ease of use, integration. And so that's what these sections are, right? So we actually started filling out the solution and using the activity to manage all that. So for example, we're going to talk about the solution. What slide do we use? Well, there's 3 or 4 slides that we could use. So you can see the discussion happening in here and around mobility as well. And so we decide through here to have the discussion on what slides we're going to go with. But all of that knowledge of who to talk to and who to go with are in here. So you can even see here for legal that, when we submitted it to Brian, sorry, let me actually go up to 3 here. So you can see here that the instructions on what to do is upload a final draft to Lotus Live, and update link in activity and notify Brian Pearson, right? So that was for me to do. And then once I notified Brian of this, he came in here, he had a look, and he even commented I made a comment on it, right? So, but you can see we're using this container to manage all that. And if you think about it from a legal perspective, I don't know how many sessions there are at Lotusphere, but it's a significant number, right? So they love this tool, right? Because since they have access to each of the activities, they can track and make sure everything's going on. You can see not only am I not only a member of this activity, but so is Chuck, Ted from marketing, and Brian from legal are members of this, right? So it's the IBM families in here to contribute, and everybody has access to it, so everybody can see the progression, and you don't have to hear that, the old Lotusphere chanter of, are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet? That doesn't have to happen, because they can come in here and get a status update. Now, as I'm going through 3 different sessions with a bunch of people, 3 different sessions working with different people and all the rest of that, it's very hard for me to, or it would take a little bit of time for me to go into each activity, track everything down, all the rest of that. This recent updates view that comes in activities is a lifesaver when you got a whole bunch of things going on across a bunch of different projects. Because you can see here, right, we have Chuck doing stuff, Paul doing stuff, Brian doing stuff, Chuck doing more stuff, me doing stuff, but it's in different activities, but it just gives me a quick view of what everybody's doing across all the different projects I'm doing. Within 30 seconds, I know somebody's done with a certain element, and now I can go off and take over from there. So anyways, very, very powerful stuff. It's a great way to manage not only one project, but all the projects you're working on at one time. If I switch back to the presentation. Can we go back to the presentation machine? All right, great, thanks. All right, so communities, the easiest way to share. I love communities. Communities have changed the way I work at IBM. I think they're fantastic, and it's a great service within Lotus Live. It really is the easiest way to share information with a group of people. And not only, and then once you share, it now becomes the easiest thing to discover, right? It's the easiest way to go out to a community and find the content that you're looking for. And the best thing about it is not only did you just make it easier for people to find stuff, but it also, because it's so socially, the social capabilities are ingrained and built right into it, it just provokes collaboration, discussion around all the stuff that's going on, right? It's not just informational stuff you're putting out there, it's informational stuff that you can have discussions around. So it's very, very helpful. Now, I've been a part of a lot of executive briefings, proof of concepts, pilots this year. And it's actually very interesting because People who aren't familiar to the community service, aren't very aware of the power and the different capabilities and the different use cases around it. So I just put a couple down here, right? You could have a community be operational, right? Let's say you're having a project that's going to last a year. Well, you're not going to do that in one activity. You're probably going to have several activities that manage all the different steps of that larger project. And a community is a great way to manage all that and actually take advantage of the other services within a community. Informational. Why can't HR have a community, right, for the employees to come to? HR manages all the content and all the rest of that. Because not only are they pushing out the information that people have to get at HR-related stuff, but now they've opened up a collaborative loop where they can get feedback from the employees right in line of everything that's going on. And people can give their inside tips on top of the traditional HR information that's available to you. And then collaboration and innovation. I'll get in and I'll show you an example of this. But one of the use cases I built out this year was a community that kind of blended the whole collaborative process with the process of actually taking an idea and actually turning it into a product. How do you do that? What's the steps you take? And then how do you make it a collaborative process where you can actually build better products from that? So let me quickly go over to my communities. I'm going to go back to my demo machine. Right. Let me go out to my communities here. So if I go out to my communities, the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over a pilot that I'm doing right now, right? So if you do a pilot in Lotus Live, it's very likely that you'll use a community to manage that. And the first thing to say is, what a great natural way to do things, right? And the power of Lotus Live is that the fact that, IBM can work with its customer through this mechanism with no IT involvement, none whatsoever. Since you're going through a pilot, you have access to this already. But anyway, so just so you can see what this looks like, this pilot. So you can see here, so from an IBM perspective, we're trying to push information out to the customer, right? So we're giving them access to the files that they would need to kind of get started with the pilot, information about the service, the key bookmarks that every pilot needs. And then the most important thing here is the discussion forum, right? When somebody has a question about Lotus Live, they post a question in this forum, in this community. So, for example, somebody was asking about meetings for remote control access of users' desktop, right? Can I take control of somebody's desktop in a meeting? And so the answer was yes, and we actually responded back with the question. But the great thing about using this technology is everybody a part of the pilot from IBM, 5 people have access to it. And so, everybody has eyes and ears into it. They don't get missed on emails because they weren't a part of it. Question gets posted once here. The whole IBM team can respond, and it's been very, very well received. The other thing that we can see here is that, The other thing we can see here is that activities are embedded here too, right? So we're using activities to manage the bi-weekly calls of an actual pilot, right? So the whole process of doing a pilot. So you can see we just have a different section for each call that we have, and we had one the first weekend in December, and that was the initial kickoff, right? So they had to get us a list of initial users, then we had to go through and IBM was going to provision the users. We walked them through how to upload their logo and all the rest of that. But so you can see here, again, extranet, right? They're contributing the list of users. We're contributing, getting everything provisioned, and all the rest of that. Everybody from both internally and externally can see exactly what's going on and has full control and viewability of the actual pilot. So it's a really great use case for that. So if I go back to it just very quickly, one of the other ones that I just want to show you is that, and this is kind of one of the ones I built out for a POC, and this is just like a knowledge store community around solar energy, right? And so it's all around a technology company wanting to learn about solar, so experts can have access to the field and vice versa. And the one thing that I want to point out here is there's a lot of content in here, so I have choices for how I want to actually find information in here, right? I can use the tag cloud, or I can use the search, but it's a full index search. So if I wanted to, I could, look for, if I'm looking for designing a solar, a solar station or putting panels on an existing data center, you can see here that very quickly I get at the information I want. And what I want to point out here is as I'm doing my research here, I see Ron's doing stuff here. Ron is doing more stuff. He's putting in bookmarks, and he's doing activities, right? So Ron is actually somebody I've just stumbled upon because he's a design expert in solar. And for me to validate that, right, I can take advantage of the social capabilities and pivot on his business card. And now I can go do more research on Ron, and maybe I'll find more information in his files. But also, I now have an access to him, and if I want, I can invite him to my network because I want to work with him some more. So Ron gives me a lot of access to my, Ron gives me, just so you can see here, you're using Lotus Live to actually do expertise search right within here. So those social capabilities are built right in. All right, so if I could go back to my presentation. All right, thank you. All right, so business partners. I like to think of business partners as collaboration mashups, right? What they do is they're kind of like our secret sauce in allowing the full collaborative life cycle to actually happen, right? Signature Mortgage could not actually use Lotus Live or complete their full use case within Lotus Live. It's only because we have Solanus built in, integrated right in, that they can actually do the whole thing that they need. So I really think of them as our secret sauce in here, and definitely one of our competitive differentiators. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through a series of business partner integrations, and they all have great, great value. The only thing I'll say before I go into the demo is that if I think about Solanus and Tungle, what they offer is the great extranet capability that it just adds on to the concept that we have around just making extranet a part of the pulse of the capabilities. They just make it so easy to have an extranet make that extranet collaboration process that much easier. So if I could go back to my demo machine. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to start with Skype, right? So Skype is very handy as a communications tool for, I think about it, for an extranet where you might not have, not everybody might be on same time, right? Which is a shame, but you might run into that situation. So anyway, if I want to, have a real-time communication, Skype's not bad based on the free price. And so all I can do here is, so if I want to chat with somebody on a document that I'm collaborating with, I can just come down here, and you can see how Skype is just, integrated deep right into the menu of this. Sorry. Wrong file. All right, so let's... So you can see here as I start off my Skype call here. So it picks up everybody who I've shared that file with, right? And it allows me to choose who I want to collaborate with. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pick Chris because I want to Skype with Chris on this particular document. So I click Start, and I'm off to the races, right? I can turn on my video camera, and there Chris and I are in our, and we're off discussing this file. All right, thanks, Chris. Great job. All right, let's talk about Espresso. Oh, man, those guys, the Espresso guys have been great all week. They knew we were going to be presenting their stuff here, and they've been very supportive, but to be honest, they didn't have to at all. The stuff just works. It's fantastic, right? And the great thing about Espresso is that, so first of all, just so you can see here, is that, they're just in line into that, integrated right into our menu choice, right? And so you can see here that I have the choice of opening this up in Microsoft Office or Symfony based on the file type. But the value of that is, you can easily get access to editors that, your organization already has. But, you are going to have, for example, spreadsheets that have very complicated macros in there, right? And if you upload it to the cloud, if you have an online editor, it's probably not going to be able to handle that macro, right? So you're all going to, I would imagine just about everybody within the organization has a certain number of complex spreadsheets that online editors just aren't going to be able to handle. And so having something that will allow you to do that in the cloud without having to download it is huge value. So you can see here that I have a spreadsheet open. And just so you can see here that I have the document open, and it has online collaborative needs. So you can see here that I have 2 people in here, and you can see that I'm actually editing it. And if you want, you can just see here. And again, I'm in a browser here, right? So if I just change that number to 20, watch the chart on the right, it just changes just so you can see the feedback. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to save here. All right, I'm just going to save the file. Chris, do you want to have access to this document?
Yep. So why don't we switch over to my machine for a second, as Kyle's then going to change my access control.
Oh, right.
Okay, yeah, we're in mine now. So I actually am using the Lotus Symphony Espresso change, and you'll now notice in the upper left-hand corner, it is view only. I can't modify this, but I did see a refresh of what he did when he hit save, because I was already in it. That's why they had 2 people in it. So when he hit save, I saw a refresh, but my access control to that file was not the same. So basically what's going to happen is he's going to change my access control and then resave that, and then I'll have a different level of control there.
Right. Can you switch it back over to mine? All right. So and I want you to see that experience. So that's the read-only. So you can see that the permissions of that file are actually coming through, right? I was an author of it, Chris was a reader, and he didn't have edit capabilities in there. But now that I've given him author capabilities, the end user experience now changes. The other thing to point out is that I actually have Microsoft Office open. Chris has Symphony. It works, I mean, so we're both editing this document at the same time, independent of the browser, so that's just crazy, right? So you can see here that Chris has come in, and because he has author access, you can see I get this dialog saying, you know, hey, somebody else here has opened up the document, they might want to edit it. So I'm just going to click on OK. Right? And so, and again, if I want to, I can just kind of come in here and change. But what I'm going to do here is, now that I'm done, Chris is going to request control.
So we'll switch back to my machine real quick.
Yep.
So as I'm looking at it through my user experience, you'll see that I can see that Kyle is letting me know that Kyle's currently doing that. I'm going to choose OK, and then I'm going to request to edit that particular file back to him, and then he should be getting a notification to allow me to do the editing on his side.
Right, and so this is what happens, right? So I get the ability to save and pass, and that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to click save and pass, and now Chris, you can see here, Chris, you can see the screen that I have. Oh, it went back to you, Chris.
Yep.
All right.
So now we're back to me. I know it's a little confusing. I'm the one from Boston. He's the one from Canada. And I have more snow than he does. How does that work? And so we're back on mine here, and now I have the edit rights to that file, and I can come in here and change the numbers. Then when I save it, it'll be updated back to him. So that's a good example of espresso.
Yeah, so I mean, think about it from an extranet use case as well here, right? This allows you to, I mean, we have an XLS file open here, right? So this allows you to work across the firewall independent of even the productivity tool that you're using, right? So that's a very, very powerful statement. I mean, you're just not stopped from collaborating. You have full access to collaborate independent of what you are already running within your business and what those businesses that you're dealing with are running as well. Okay, so let's move on to Solanus. Okay, good, it's on my machine. Okay, so Solanus, right? The ability to sign a document digitally. So just so you can see here, I'm going to set up a room here that Chris can come in and sign here. So you can see that I have this Lotusphere demo room set up, and typically you would have multiple documents in here. But what I want to point out here is that, again, deep integration into Lotus Live. So I can easily, as soon as I start typing, the autocomplete that's actually coming from my files, right? So deep integration, same capability exists on users. So as soon as I start adding people to this into this room, it looks against Lotus Live for that. Now I already have this room in here. what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into the room, and what I need here is I need Chris's signature, right? So I'm going to switch over to Chris, and then where I actually need his signature is at the bottom of this thing, and I'm just going to say add approval, because that's what I need from Chris, and I'm just going to drag it and put it in that box. And then we're done, right? So I'm just going to activate this room. Now what's happening behind the scenes is Chris is receiving an email. And it's an email that's a one-click operation. He'll get that email, he'll click on it, and into Lotus Live he goes to come in and sign it. Do you want to switch over to Chris? Oh. Come on, come on. That's awesome, but where were you 5 minutes ago?
That deserves a golf clap. Outstanding.
Yeah, that was good. Thank you.
All right, so I'm over here. I'm going to click on the Lotusphere demo. Partnership contract. Come down here. Click to sign. Confirm. So easy an American can do it.
All right, so Chris is done there. And so all I need to do as the person who created this room is just to come in here and validate that everything's done. And then as soon as it's done, I just mark this complete, right? Every organization that's here at Lotusphere, parts of your business have this problem, right? And they're spending a lot of money on FedEx, they're losing days, and this just takes care of the whole process in minutes. Huge, huge value add from Solanus. And then the last thing I want to show you is not only do they have the integration for me to, while I'm actually over in Solanus getting access to my files and to my contacts, but you can see here that it actually creates a PDF document, right? And I have complete access, or I have a digital contract now available from my files that I can share with somebody. So I have an electronic copy. Now the last thing I'm going to do here, just very quickly, is talk about Tungle, right? And because Tungle is a lifesaver when it comes to doing calendar entries for when you're working with people outside the firewall. And this year I had a couple calls with analysts, and there was probably about 5 calls in a stretch of a document that we were preparing, and we had to save 15 minutes at the end of every single call for everybody to get open their calendars and actually start, does this work for you? Does this work for you? So, if you take 15 minutes, times it by the 4 people that were on the call, times it by 5 calls, I mean, the value behind this is very, very straightforward and very big. So I'm just going to create a meeting here, and I'm going to add 2 people. I'm going to add Chris, right? And I'm also going to add Chris, who's my IBMer, but I'm also going to add Chris_Crummy at yahoo.com. Now, Chris Crummy at Yahoo, he's not a Tungle member. But again, just like we support the guest model, so does Tungle. So he'll get an email and he'll get a web interface where he can come in and contribute to when the appropriate time works for him. But so anyways, once I do that, you can see here that look at this mess of stuff that Chris has going on, that I have going on. I'm in purple, Chris is in blue. So, having an engine that's, instead of everybody saying, well, I can do 3 on Tuesday, I can do 2 on Wednesday. No, that's not going to work for me. This does it in like 30 seconds, figures out everything, all the times that are available. You can see Friday afternoon is the only time, right? Not only that, but this is smart enough to say, you know what, you got to pick 2 times. If you only pick 1 time, it's going to backfire because, that knowledge of how to actually do a schedule, a meeting with extranet people, they've got that science built right into it. So anyways, that's all I got to do, and send a preview, and I just got to send off the invite. And basically what will happen is that Chris will get an email, and he'll just click on it, and it'll give him that Tungle interface to come in and pick that time slot, and it'll get back. And when it gets back to me, if I have the Tungle integrator built into my Notes client, my calendar just gets automatically updated. I don't have to do anything. But for those people who don't have it, they get a calendar entry, double click, open it, done. If it gets canceled, the canceled meeting notice gets sent out, and everything's handled appropriately. Great technology, well integrated. If I could switch back to my presentation.
Can we go to a single screen also, please?
All right, Chris, over to you.
Okay. All right. So we kind of went through these scenarios. Now, the fundamental value that I get with Lotus Live is really simple. It has dramatically changed my relationships with my business partners and my customers. My previous tool was email. And I was just told by my 30 nieces and nephews that Uncle Chris, email is for old people. So the bottom line is that we've got to have a stronger way to have a relationship with my business partners and my customers, and this is a deeper relationship, especially when you see the Tungle capabilities and the sharing capabilities and making it easy for someone to do the right thing. That's the key here. So how have I used this? So I have a graphic artist that I work with, collaborated with her on 9 different versions of presentations. Basically, as a public speaker like Kyle, I get asked for my presentations all the time. So huge value, being able to bring, in a spontaneous moment, go, I know what I can do. You want access to some of my developers? You're a customer in a different time zone. Let's build a community and an activity in which you guys can work. In 90 seconds, this thing was built. Cut the customer project by 50%. So using this is a very powerful model. Okay, next slide. Next slide, Kyle.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So the next concept is something we call click to cloud. And that's that ability to still be on premise, still be able to have value in the cloud, but make it easy for someone to do the right thing. Think about it. If you make it difficult, they will not do it, right? If you make it easy and if you put it in front of their eyeballs, you will drive adoption rate. So one of the first things that I do to have that relationship is use the instant messaging. So being able to connect to my key partners on Lotus Live, it's just like Facebook. You got to first say, yeah, we're going to be friends. And then you can actually kind of cross-certify yourselves and then be able to add yourself to the same time. Next is the activities. So if I go out live to my machine, let me come back to this machine here. This is my machine. You'll notice that I've got Polycom customers in my same time. I've got Plantronics customers in my same time. I come down here, I've got my activities that I'm working on. These are these same activities you just saw Kyle have. You'll notice there is the day in the life of cloud that's in there. Why are we driving the adoption rate? Because I can just drag and drop out of my email directly into the cloud. Take an attachment, take an email, drag it right in there up to the cloud, right? You'll also notice that if I pull down this list, and this is something that's coming, it's not out of the box like this, but I have multiple activities that I'm working on. I have my internal secure activities with my teams. I've got ones in Greenhouse, and I've got ones in Lotus Live. So when I pull down that list, I can actually have multiple inside and outside. You'll see a lot more of that type of mentality in our plugins. So things like files and things like activities, etc., will kind of be able to move in and out, whether you're in the cloud or on premise. That click to cloud type concept. All right. The next thing I wanted to show was this idea of Lotus Live meetings. So this plugin is available for download. You can go to the Lotus Live wiki and actually get the plugin for this and add it to your client. I like it for a couple of reasons. One is I can literally just type in the ID number and join, or I can click on the start button and initiate my meeting immediately. But what I like about it even more is when I have to deal with my boss. Anyone have a boss that's kind of technically challenged? Right? So, you know, you kind of have a new definition of managing up, right? So here's how I do it. So I'm going to demonstrate it with Kyle. I'm going to come over to Kyle. I'm going to see Kyle's name, and I'm going to right-click on Kyle, and then way down here on the bottom, you'll see it says Invite to Meeting Lotus Live. Okay? because now I'm going to come down and do this, and I'll say, invite to meeting Lotus Live, and I'll get a message in a second, and now you'll notice in the lower right-hand corner that I got a success message, because when you're talking to your boss, he or she's like, I'm sorry, what was the URL again? I'm sorry, what was the number again? What was the URL again? So what was the number again? And if we switch, I think if we could, let's switch over to Kyle's machine for a quick second. And did you show? There we go. And so this is what he gets. He gets that boss-proof, just click here to join. Okay? Now, you might also notice that we've got a couple of other people in the meeting. So we're running the meeting, and I think, Kyle, you're in the meeting now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in the meeting. Okay, let's come back to my machine here for a second. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually switch over to my ThinkPad, not my ThinkPad, my iPad, or as my daughter calls it, Daddy's big iPhone. And I'm going to actually click on the Lotus Live meeting app that I have. I'm going to click on my name that's in there. And we're going to go out, and it's actually going to get to that meeting in a second if I've got coverage here. There we go. It's going to take a second, and it's going to actually initiate into that meeting, and I'll see the slides that we saw earlier there in a second. And there we go. Okay? So I can then come over to my browser here, and then I can click on the pointer, and I can click right there. Then I'm going to go back to here, and now we see it on the iPad. Okay? So you can join the meetings on your iPhone, on your BlackBerry, on your iPad, etc. You'll be able to do it on the Android. Supporting e-meetings is going to be a horizontal service across our mobility strategy. Are you ready to show yours, or are you good? He's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's up. It's up. We can switch over.
Switch over to Kyle.
Yeah, just so you guys can see here, I have this USB cable connected to my BlackBerry. But you can see that I'm in the meeting. Can you guys see that? I'm struggling. But you can see here, I'm just protecting my screen. But on the BlackBerry, you can see that I'm actually in there. And I have a lot of access into the different services. So I can go and join the chat and all the rest of that.
All right, let's go back to the presentation.
Yeah, we go back to the presentation.
Okay. So the other kind of click-to-cloud functionality, which is this idea of on-premise up to the cloud, is the Lotus Live Files integration with Symphony. It's a free plugin, Symphony version 3. You'll notice on the sidebar plugin, I'm able to do round-trip editing of files directly from the cloud inside of Symphony. Very, very powerful concept. All right, let's go to the last topic, which is the idea of Lotus Live Labs. And one of my favorite features inside of Lotus Live Labs is this idea of the slide library. Think of the slide library like iTunes for your presentations. Right? You take a CD, which is your presentation, and you put it into iTunes, and each song on that CD is a slide in your presentation. And what does iTunes do? It actually recognizes the entire CD, but separates each song, and basically it allows you to create, in the slide library, allows you to create a playlist, which is the ability to pull songs from different backs, just pull slides from different presentations and recreate a new one and go from there. So let's talk and show the next slide here. So this is an example here of my slide library. I can upload, and when I upload it, it literally slices each slide into a separate identity. And then I can now search across the slides and be able to find things. So let's go to the next slide. So here, I sliced it. I wanted to do a presentation, as you can see in the left-hand side on iNotes, and I wanted all public slides, and I wanted both the slides and the presentation. And I can view each slide and say, create new deck. So next slide. And when I create a new deck, I give that deck a name, and I can say whether I want it to be PowerPoint, or I want it to be open document file format, or I can say, take those slides that you selected and actually add it to an existing presentation that you already have. So it allows you to steal at a higher and more productivity level. All right? So I think with that, we are ready for Q&A. Yep. So first of all, the most valuable thing you can give to another human being is your time. So thank you very much for that. And we'll take questions if you want. You can come up here, or we'll see you around Lotusphere.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Question? No.
Just
Oh,
one
yes.
question. My name is Chelsea Richards, and I'm from IBM, more the sales side of the things. I had a question when it came to sharing the files. When you initially first started the presentation, you sent it to a guest. So you had like a presentation, you sent it to a guest.
Right.
So if we were going to be putting our white papers in a Lotus Live format, could we send it to prospects and they would open it in a guest format, so we're really taking advantage of the whole collaboration?
Yeah, so what actually happens is if that person is not a Lotus Live member,
Okay.
what will happen is they'll receive 2 emails, right? And the first email will be a link to come in and register and get a guest account. And that guest account gives you full access to all the collaborative services. You know, they have access to files, communities, activities. They have a limit of 25 megabytes of data that they can upload themselves, but that doesn't stop them from getting access to any of the services. So they'll get an email to come register, and then also get an email with a link, or an email with a link to that document. And that email also has a link for a one-time download of that document, so they don't even have to log into Lotus Live to actually get that document. So anyways, lots of options for them.
Is there also a time limit on the time that they can access the Lotus Live guest trial?
No, the guest trial, the guest account does not expire.
Okay.
So they have full access to it.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
How you doing? Good
Good.
Presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple of scenarios where you were integrating with Excel or the click to the cloud. Does that require local clients for both? So you have Office installed, you have the Notes client installed?
So from the Espresso demo that we have, you do need Microsoft Office installed on your desktop. But there's a very high percentage of the fact that it's already there, right? And it'll just work with that client that's installed on the desktop. The click to cloud stuff is, because it is the desktop, it is the Notes client. Obviously, you need the Notes client to actually install it. But besides that, all the Web 2.0 experience of you just using Lotus Live in a browser is fantastic, right? I mean, it's the same experience that you would get from Connections, but it's all Web 2.0, autocomplete, all that, partial page refreshes that make the end user experience very easy and intuitive to use.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, thanks guys.